Now we are heading to our fourth speaker of the day, and Jane Falconer is joining us now, which is great. Jane's been a medical librarian for over 20 years, working in charitable sector, in the NHS, in higher education, and she currently leads on user-facing service provision for the Library and Archive Service in the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And she's also been subcontracted to provide information specialist skills to a number of systematic review teams, including updates for Cochrane Injuries Group, reviews to inform the World Health Organization guidance, and NIHR, National Institute of Health Research reports. Jane's going to be talking about a review of London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine systematic reviews. And I'm going to pass over to you, Jane. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Isla. Let me just share my screen and put it up on share.
That's perfect, Jane.
Hopefully you can see.
Yep, that's all good.
So this is a bit of a story about systematic review support at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which I'm going to call LSHTM from now on because it's a bit of a mouthful. And I'm going to start off just by telling you about how I came to the realization that all was not well in the land of systematic reviews. And it started about 20 years ago, before I started working at LSHTM, and I can't exactly remember how, but I ended up advising an early career researcher on their first ever systematic review. And the researcher's professor came out of his office and told us that the researcher only needed to search in Medline for the systematic review, because if it wasn't in a journal that was in Medline, then it was automatically a rubbish piece of research, and therefore it wasn't worth being included in this review. Thankfully, although I didn't know a lot about how to do systematic review searching, I knew enough about systematic review methodology and appraising systematic reviews to know that this was a really bad idea, and managed to persuade them that actually they should search in more than just Medline, and managed to persuade them that they should search in Embase as well. And when they said yes, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to cut my losses now. But that was kind of my first introduction to systematic reviews. When I moved to LSHTM, as Isla said, I'm in charge of all of this front-facing part of the library. But when I first arrived there, I was looking after all of the information skills training and the teaching programme. And I got an increasing number of inquiries from staff and students who were doing systematic reviews. We're a postgraduate institution, so we have lots of master's students, and we're a specialist institution, so we look just at public health and infectious diseases. So we're all very busy right now. But during normal times, about 10% of our output is systematic reviews. And so I had quite a steep learning curve myself in learning more about systematic review support in order to provide support to those people. But again, it hadn't really changed very much from the normal sort of training that we were providing that I'd been providing before to undergrad medical students. It was just maybe a little bit more advanced for master's students. And then I got asked by Stephen Peckham to actually do some systematic review searching. And I think I had done an advanced searching module for Stephen's master's students. And so he asked me to be involved in this project. And my boss was very keen on it because Stephen said that the grant would pay for my time on the project. So my boss thought, oh, brilliant, income generation. And I ended up for the first time doing searches on a systematic review. And as you can probably tell by the topic, this wasn't a nice, discreet little systematic review. This is an enormous thing. And so it was a real baptism of fire. But it really changed the way that we approached systematic review support within the library, because suddenly what I was telling people was based on my own practical experience rather than just theory. And I found myself being a little bit more pragmatic about the advice that I was giving people, and a little bit more sympathetic about their issues. But again, we weren't really changing what we were providing. It was still very much based on face-to-face teaching and the basics of doing searching and using mesh terms and things like that. And then in 2016, I was watching Twitter and all the things with the hashtag of EAHIL 2016, which is the conference for the European Association of Health Information and Libraries. And there was a presentation there given by Alicia Gomez Sanchez and colleagues. And they praised a lot of systematic reviews and found 2/3 of them had major flaws. And this really caught my attention. And I mean, I think like a lot of people joining in today, we've done critical appraisal of systematic reviews and found systematic reviews ourselves that we thought could have been a lot better. But I was really surprised at the volume that Alicia and our colleagues had found. And so I went and did a little bit of literature searching and see if I could find anything else that had been done on this, and found a whole host of papers on different areas within medicine finding very similar results. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe people have picked those particular areas because it's been known that there's an issue there. And then I came across a paper done by Matthew Page and his colleagues, which looked at systematic reviews that were published in February 2014. So they weren't subject specific, they were date specific. And they looked at over 300 systematic reviews and they found very similar results. So I thought, well, there's obviously an issue here. You know, this is something that is across all of medicine and all of systematic reviews. So then I thought, well, how does that impact on us in the library at the London School? This is our building in central London. And I thought, well, you know, we can't possibly be that bad at the London School because, you know, we are a very highly respected institution. Our researchers are sort of internationally acknowledged experts. We have a centre for evaluation based at the school, which looks at systematic review methodologies. Surely, if we looked at the reviews that our library did, then we would find that we're above average. And then at the time we were looking at ways that we could show the impact of the teaching programme in the school, and we thought, you know, if we show that the school's above average, then we might be able to take some of the glory from that. So we decided we would have a look and do our own little evaluation of the school's systematic reviews. So apologies to some of you who have seen this before, but just to give a very brief overview of what we did a literature search to find systematic reviews that were authored by school authors. We then took a random sample of them and did analysis using a 58-item data extraction form using criteria from Prisma, from Amstar and from Press. And myself and my then colleague Kim Coles independently assessed each of the 44 systematic reviews and then came back together to resolve any differences and to give each paper a score as to how good we thought the paper was. And as you can see by the numbers, we were not above average. We were probably maybe even sometimes below average. And actually only 7% of the papers that we looked at, we classed as being good quality systematic reviews, looking at only at the search bit. And 45% of them we found showed serious flaws, and we classed it as serious flaws if we felt that there is a high probability that they missed relevant information, and so therefore their conclusions may not be entirely reliable. And 25% of them, we just couldn't assess the search strategy because they didn't give one. To put a little bit of data on that, when we looked at how they reported things, there was a bit of variation, but it wasn't very good. And we were a little bit dumbfounded by this, because surely reporting on what research you've done is kind of a key skill of a scientist, but there was lots of information missing. And then when we came to the actual search strategy, that was even more horrifying, to be honest, because we found there were a lot of what we classed as really quite basic skills that were missing and weren't being used properly. I mean, here we've got a quarter, 24%, didn't use Boolean operators correctly. And I don't know about anybody else who's watching this, but this is something that I taught undergraduate medical students 20 years ago, and how somebody who gets to be a paid academic producing systematic reviews and can't use ands and ors and nots and things effectively kind of blows my mind a little bit. But however, we ended up being kind of quite down-spirited and kind of sad little kittens, and I was thinking, what on earth have I been doing all these years here, trying to teach people how to do this? I'm obviously not doing it very well. And we were really kind of scratching our heads about it, because I think what we'd been doing was very similar to what lots of other people have been doing in other institutions. But then I remembered, going back to all the other research that's been done about this, that actually, this is a systemic issue. This isn't just an issue at the London School. And so we thought, although it is dispiriting, we can't take all the blame for this. This is a wider problem. And so we decided, instead of being sad little kittens, we would be slightly more tiger-like, and we would actually see if we could do something about it. So I was really keen to approach this in two different ways. So I wanted to look at what we could do internally within LSHTM to improve the situation locally. But I was also really keen to see how I could work with others in other institutions to try and start to address this more systemic issue. So we took our research to departmental meetings. We started off internally and thought, right, we'll go and talk to people about what we've done, which was pretty terrifying, actually, because we were basically going into a departmental meeting and telling the attendees that their research was rubbish. And we weren't quite sure what reception we would get, but to give our academics credit, they were really, really receptive to what we had to say, and we had some really good discussions with people about why this may have occurred, and what we might do to address it, which was what we were more interested in, to be honest. We also took our findings to our deputy director in charge of research, because we felt that we had to get permission from her before we went externally to tell everybody what we'd done, because it really doesn't show the institution in that great a light. But actually, to give her credit, she was quite happy for us to go out and disseminate this information, which is why I'm now telling you about it. And to blow our trumpet a little bit, I think it says a lot about the environment within which research is done at the school, that they are very much looking at continuous improvement and acknowledging where things have gone wrong and looking to make things better, and are quite happy to sort of do a mea culpa, we got things wrong, but let's work to make things better. So what did we do? Well, the first thing that we set up was a press service, a peer review service, because that was the one thing that the academics said that they thought would be really useful. And thankfully, the press guidelines already existed, so we didn't have to make up any sort of peer review things ourselves. And we set up the service where the user could upload a copy of their search strategy and their protocol, or if they don't have a protocol, some other background information to their search, and we would provide them with a written peer review of their search. The first time we ran this, we just opened it up to anybody who was a user of the library, and we were inundated, unsurprisingly probably, mainly by our master's students who were really keen to have this sort of validation of their search strategy for their project. And so now we've unfortunately had to stop providing the service to the master's students because we just don't have the capacity to do it. And we just provide it now to research degree students and to staff. But our feedback from it has been really good. So I'm not going to read it all out. I'm sure you can all read it on the screen, but I'll give you a couple of minutes just to have a look at that. The other thing that we did was we formalised our service actually providing search strategies for people. So I trained up my 2 information skills trainers to provide this service as well. So there's now 3 of us doing this. And what happens is the researchers contact us via email or via TopDesk, which is our query answering service. And we have an initial conversation with them about their project and the scope of the project and the timescales that they're working under. And then from that, we give an estimate of cost, because this bit we charge for. And if the timescales and the cost are agreeable, then we work directly with the research team in building their search strategy. We usually create and run the searches, we remove duplicates from the results, and we sometimes help them source full text articles, and then we write up the searches and quite often help with the creation of and peer reviewing of the manuscript. This is charged on an hourly basis, so we kind of keep a timetable of how much time we've spent on the project, and then we charge them at the end of the project. And the money that we've raised from the project has, most of it has gone on conservation and preservation of our archives and rare books, which we don't have a funding stream for, but we also use some of it on CPD opportunities for myself and the team. So it's meant that we can go to training courses and conferences that ordinarily we wouldn't have the funds for us to go to. And it's been a really great experience for us, because it's meant that myself and my team have learned new skills. we're obviously providing a service to our users, and it's changed the way that we support people in our sort of teaching program and in our one-to-one service, which we still do. So we're still providing advice and support, which we do for free. We don't charge for that. But we all feel much more confident in doing that, and confident in answering queries about different databases and the minutiae of searching in Web of Science and Scopus and all the other different databases. And the feedback that we've had from the Searches on Demand service has been, quite frankly, amazing. So again, I've just given you some of the feedback that we've got. And I think the things that we've picked out from the feedback so far is that, you know, the academic staff really feel that we have improved the quality of the research that they're doing, and we've also saved them time. So we do a much better job than they feel that they could have done, and we do it much quicker than they feel that they could have done it, which to us is just, you know, win-win really. And a good side effect of that is that we've actually got our names on some papers. And now our jobs aren't dependent on how much we publish, so that's a kind of nice side effect, but it's not kind of something that we put a huge amount of store on. But it is certainly, if we contribute towards the manuscript, then we would expect to have authorship on the paper. Another thing that we've done is I've worked with our research data manager to look at uploading the search strategies into Data Compass, which is our institutional data repository. And we've created a guide on how to upload search strategies into the institutional repository. And the advantage of doing this is that if we upload the search strategy before the manuscript is submitted, then instead of having lots of supplementary files, we can just refer to the search strategy with its data DOI. And it means then that the search strategy is not going to get sort of disassociated from its parent paper and get lost over the years. And you know, the DOI will be there, and people will be able to find the search strategy. So I've included the Twitter address there of our research data team. If anybody's interested in how we did that, it's probably best you contact them rather than me, because they're the experts in it. We've just recently started talking to our Centre for Evaluation, and in LSHTM we have a number of different centres, and these are multi-faculty, multidisciplinary groups of academics who all come together around a core subject area. And the Centre for Evaluation looks at a whole host of different topics around evaluation, one of which is the evidence synthesis stream. And I've been working with the chair of the evidence synthesis stream to try and coordinate experience and expertise within the institution on systematic reviews. So what we've found is there's groups of people amongst different faculties and different departments who have expertise, but they're not necessarily talking to one another. And we've found from talking to students that they come to us for help with the evidence collection part of the systematic review. And then they say, well, who can I go and talk to about the next bit? I'm not entirely sure how to do screening. I want some advice on how to do data extraction, etc. And there isn't really anybody within the institution that we can send them to. And so the Centre for Evaluation is trying to bring that together so that we can have a bit more sharing of information. And the library is one of the few parts of the institution that actually talks to everybody, regardless of what faculty they're in. So I think we're going to be quite central to sort of identifying people who might be willing to be part of that. Outside LSHTM, I have set up something called the London Systematic Searchers Network. So I found that, you know, there's only 3 of us in our group, and although we can talk amongst ourselves, sometimes none of us know the answer to the question, and there wasn't really anywhere else that we could go to talk through issues and talk about things. So I contacted a few people in London that I knew that were doing systematic review searching and said, would you fancy being part of a group? And they said yes, and then the number of people grew and the number of people grew, and we had our first meeting this year in February, and 30 people turned up, and we agreed that we would continue. We were due to have our next meeting in June, but that may not happen now, obviously. But the network is open to anybody, with 2 rules for membership. You have to be based in London, and you have to be about to or have already done searches for a systematic review. So you have to be actively doing it. It's not for people who are just supporting others, it's for people who are actually doing the searches. But if you qualify with both of those, then get in touch with me if you'd like to join, and I can add you to the email list. And when the next meeting does eventually happen, you'll get invited to the next meeting. I've also, you've not appeared in a different presentation. This is the front slide for a training course that I've done for CPD 25, which is a London and South East consortium of libraries, academic libraries primarily, who put together training courses. And I've done a class, a full day workshop for librarians on supporting systematic reviews. And I've now run that twice. So that's been really successful. It's been way more successful than I thought it would be. And I'm currently working with CPD 25 to look at expanding more support for systematic reviews, because we've realised that it's one thing that a lot of people say that they need more support and more training around systematic review searching, which is quite significantly different to searching for other types of research. I'm also now co-chair of a new special interest group as part of EAHIL. So this is the evidence-based information special interest group in EAHIL. We're literally just convened, so we're so new that we haven't even got a space on the EAHIL website yet. But the special interest groups for anybody who is interested in finding information for evidence synthesis. We were going to have our first meeting at the EAHIL meeting in the summer, but that's now been postponed. But one of the things that the SIG is keen to do is to work on some of those more systemic issues. So we've set our ambitions pretty high, and we would like to work with sister organisations around the world to work with publishers of medical research to try and improve peer review of searches in published systematic reviews, and to encourage journals to employ more information professionals in peer review of articles. So if there's anybody who's watching right now who is a member of a sister organisation and is in the position to work with us on this, then again, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But we're hoping with the weight of the European Association and other national and international associations, we might start to get some movement on this. So what are our future plans? The work has really raised the profile of my team within the institution, and we've basically got to the point now where we're working beyond capacity, because we're doing all this systematic review work, and the other work that we were previously doing hasn't gone away. We're just doing more, and there's only 3 of us, so there is a limit to what we can do. So I'm currently putting together a business plan to try and get another member of staff, and I've been working with my line manager to do that. Obviously, with the current situation, everything at LSHTM is COVID-19, and rightfully nobody's interested in much else. But once things get back to some semblance of normality, or what the new normal is going to be, I'm going to be pushing that forward, and hopefully we'll be able to persuade the institution to fund another person to help us with this. If we manage to increase the capacity of the team, then obviously we'll be looking at doing some more internal publicity to try and get more systematic reviewers to come to us for help and advice. Meanwhile, we are in the process of putting together an advanced literature searching module on Moodle. So we already have an introductory one and an intermediate one for our distance learning master's students. And we're going to put up an advanced one, which will be aimed at PhD students and early career researchers, specifically looking at systematic review searching. So we're just in the beginnings of putting that together. And then we're hoping to be working more closely with our Centre for Evaluation to put together that group of people who can provide advice. And one of the things that they're interested in doing is creating a checklist for systematic reviewers of things that they need to do and people that they need to go and talk to when they're doing a systematic review. And obviously we would like go and talk to the librarians as sort of one of the first things on that checklist. I'm also interested in all the new technology that's coming through and seeing how that can help us in our systematic review work. And I'm really keen to sort of try and carve out some time to spend a bit more time investigating how things like machine learning and all the different tools that can do searching for you can make our searches more precise and more reliable and more comprehensive. So in conclusion, I thought I'd leave you with a picture of our library, which I'm really missing right now while we're in lockdown in London. I'm not sure how much people can sort of use our experience of the systematic review service in their own institution, because I'll be honest, we haven't really planned it. It's just kind of happened. And we've been very reactive to circumstance. And I think we've been really lucky that the way that the library is structured has meant that we've been flexible enough to be able to take advantage of opportunities as they've come up. But I think also that lack of planning is now coming back to bite us a little bit, because we have reached capacity, and we're now kind of scrabbling around a little bit trying to figure out how we can continue to provide a service to an ever-increasing number of people who want our service. But I have to say, it has been an extremely worthwhile thing. We're really pleased that we started doing it, and it's definitely something that we're looking to expand and improve on in the future. Okay, thank you. I'll just skip through my references because you'll get my slides, and that's my contact details if anybody wants to get in touch afterwards.
Fantastic, thank you so much, James. As well as having library envy, which was mentioned in the chat in relation to that picture, a beautiful example of social distancing within your library.
It is usually busier than that.
But lots of questions. Thank you so much. That was really, really good. Lots of love for putting your slides, your search strategies up on your repository. So there was a lot of people going, oh, that's such a good idea, such a good idea. And as a general question that you can answer about whether anybody else does that, but I think it's something that is now firmly planted in a lot of people's minds as a really good way, a really good solution to that. So just as a point, really good idea there. A question about there was a couple of people asking about the press service that you stopped doing now, the time it takes to review a strategy versus the time it would have taken you to have done it to begin with, and that challenge.
Yeah. The actual press review doesn't take that much time, because you can pretty much tell as soon as you look at it whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we look at it and we think, oh, this is not very good, then quite often we just won't actually bother sending the person a written review. We'll just get in touch with them and say, come and talk to us about it. For the ones that I've got a few issues, then we'll give the person the opportunity to come and talk to us about it if they want, but quite often they're quite happy with us saying, you might want to put a few more extra terms here, or you've missed this particular mesh term which we think would be useful, or you've used this term that's really ambiguous and it's going to find you loads of extra things. And we quite often they're quite happy with that and they can go away and sort it themselves. But we've always given people that one-to-one support. I think we're quite lucky at LSHTM where we actually have the capacity within the team to provide a sort of 30-minute session with individuals about their projects, and we've always provided that for our users. So for our master's students, they can get one 30-minute one-to-one appointment with a librarian, but for staff and research degree students they can have as many as they need. So we get people coming back a few times with the same project, or people coming back with different projects, and we feel it's kind of part of our remit in the school to upskill our users so that we don't just do it ourselves, but they actually get the skills themselves. And quite a lot of them actively want to do it themselves because they want to learn and they want to know how to do it. And also because we charge for actually doing the searches for them, quite a lot of them just don't have the funds to do it. And we are quite, it's one thing that we don't really do much. We can't afford to just say, oh, okay, we'll do your search for you. If you can't afford to pay us for it, we don't do it.
Weakens the whole model, doesn't it? It's a tough one, though. It's a tough one. Here's a quickie. How to join the new EAHIL SIG? That's a question from Andrew.
If you are a member of EAHIL, then I think you just sign up.
And EAHIL is free to join already, so an easy process. Thank you for that. There was lots of questions about the extension of the network beyond London, and it feels like that EAHIL SIG might be part of the solution towards that, but it's maybe it's a tricky one to get it small enough that it's personable and yet large enough with a body of expertise, and yet that's
yeah, when we had our first meeting with the London group, we did have a discussion about whether just to keep it locally within London or whether to expand it, and we decided actually the local bit was one of the main features that everybody liked about it.
Having tried to elbow in myself and being told no, the local was the important thing. I fair enough.
That came through really strongly. Everybody liked the idea that, you know, we could get together face to face semi-regularly, and you know, we could meet up and go for a coffee with someone and that sort of thing. That
the new normal. Who knows how
exactly.
And just a couple of quick ones before we sign off. There was a couple of questions around whether the journals that the papers were being published in were the weak point in terms of the allowing poorer quality work through, or whether and the journal's responsibility to have more control over the quality of the work that's been published. And I think it's long been the case that it's not the quality of the journal, it's just,
yeah, I've found terrible systematic reviews in Nature.
Yeah, it's not the journal
it's across the board. It's nothing to do with the journal that it's published in. But I think that's true of any type of research. It's not just a systematic review specific thing.
Yeah, the editorial process is sometimes leaves a little to be desired, and peer review by its very nature leaves a little bit to be desired in that way.
Well, the thing that I've heard from academics, certainly, who are a lot more involved in peer review than me, is that one of the issues in peer review is that they get the subject specialists but not the methodological specialists involved. And then the subject specialists get really excited because the results look really interesting, but they're not as up to speed with the methodology, and so that bit sometimes can get skipped. Well, people get very excited over the results that are presented, which is fair enough. You know, we don't expect everybody to be an information specialist, but I think that's where us as librarians can really have a big impact and really show off our skills.
There's been lots of discussions in various EAHIL meetings and so on and so forth, so I won't go over them here, time doesn't allow. One quickie, how do you estimate the cost of a systematic review because people would presumably want an estimate of how much it's going to cost before they engage your services?
We have a sort of very back of an envelope type of algorithm that we use. So we look at the actual query itself and try and work out, you know, how complicated is this search? Is the search going to be 20 lines long or 500 lines long? And how many databases are you wanting us to look in? How many results are you expecting us to retrieve? Are you wanting us to find full text or not? And then from that conversation, we can then give them an estimate on how long it's going to take us, because as I said, we charge by the hour. Mm-hmm. And if when we actually start doing it, if we feel that we're going to go significantly over that estimate, then we'll let them know. And then sometimes they say, well, actually it's fine because your estimate was way lower than we were expecting it to be and we've got the money. And sometimes they'll say, oh, well, maybe we need to dial back on what we're planning to do.
Yeah, sometimes it's surprising how cheap librarians are.
Yeah, and we have actually, I've had discussions with my line manager about maybe charging more, because we thought we were charging a lot of money, and actually the people who have the money in the budget in their grant to pay for it don't blink about it. Sometimes they'll say, well, we've got X amount of money to spend on you, so as long as you spend less than that, then it's fine. And sometimes that X amount of money can be £1,000, sometimes it can be £5,000, sometimes it can be £10,000. And I don't kind of like to say to somebody, oh, well, I'll charge you £10,000 then, thank you very much.
Oh, it's a tough one. idea how much as you can afford to pay. It's tricky, but I like nice to hear the estimate. And final question: how long did it take you to do your analysis of the your local papers, your London School papers?
Oh, that's kind of hard to say because we did it over several months, just as we had some time. So I think the first couple of papers that we did, we took ages over because we were sort of trying to work out how we were going to do it as we were doing it. But by the time we got to the end, we knew exactly what things we were looking for in the papers, so we could pick out the information much more quickly. It probably took us about half an hour, 45 minutes per paper to do the sort of data extraction, because sometimes the information is kind of hidden in different bits, so you really have to read the whole paper. And then, yeah, to then bring it all together took longer than we were expecting it to, actually, and to do all the analysis on it and then writing it all up. So it did take a significant amount of time.
In between all the other things you had to do.
Yeah, so, you know, we did it over probably about 6 months.
Yeah, interesting. There may be more questions that I will pass to you in text form. Thank you very much indeed. That was really interesting and just fascinating to hear partly to hear the reactions of the researchers to hearing that they weren't quite as good as they thought they were or should be. Generosity and kudos to your school for being happy for you to share that. Thank you very much indeed, Jane. Much appreciated. And I'll be going through your slides again myself because I was looking at all the questions. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, everyone.